Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial. Today I'm going to talk about the JUnit testing for the JPA implementation classes that I have created. Now if you look at the Eclipse over here, you can see that this is a package, and under this package I have this DAOIMPL, the main package over here, and you can see the implementation classes. So let's look at one of the classes, user DAOIMPL.java, and this is actually part of the user DAO interface. So if I look at over here, user DAO interface, you can see like there is only one method, and that method is implemented in this implementation class. And I have put here the repository. The purpose of the repository annotation is to let JPA know that this class is relating to the JPA implementation. And over here, it's the persistence context I have got, an entity manager, and then the implementation is very simple. I am using the entity manager to call its method create query, and then I'm passing on a query which is saying that select u from user u, where username equals username and password equals password, and then I'm passing on this user class. And then I put the parameters, and then I'm expecting a single result. And if there is a result, that if there is the user that passed on over here is in the database, then what is happening? I should get one user. And then if user not equals null, return true. That means I find a user. And then I'm closing the entity manager. Now, the purpose of the JUnit over here is to test the methods of the particular implementation class. So if I look at over here, user DAOIMPL, this is the implementation class. So you can see that I have invoked this isValidUser. So isValidUser is defined where? This isValidUser is defined in my implementation class, and I'm going to test it that whether the class is or whether the implementation is working properly or not. So before writing this, we need to know about the Spring JUnit configuration thing. So the first thing that we need to write is run with annotation, and I need to tell that I'm running this as a Spring JUnit for class runner. Okay, so this is the first thing that I need to put, and for that purpose we have to get these are the import for that particular JUnit testing. And then I'm using, now if you look at over here, there is another annotation is context configuration, and within this context configuration I am telling the Spring JUnit for class runner where the configuration is. And you can see that the configuration says that look at the class path and look for this file. Okay, so there are two things. I'm telling the configuration, I'm telling this class that okay, to test this, look at the class path and this file. Within this class path, this is the class file. So if you look at over here, the resources, this folder is always within the class path, right? And over here I have put root context.xml. So if I click on over here, this root context.xml file is a XML configuration file. That is, I talked before that how to configure your Spring application with a configuration file. So this one is helping us over here. So over here you can see that I have defined a data source, and I'm saying that this is a basic data source, and then I've said that driver class is MySQL JDBC driver, and then these are the properties, and the properties are telling that where is the location of this database and what are the ID and passwords. Okay, and then at the same time I'm telling over here that the component scan and all these things. You can see there are a few other configuration things, but this is the most important, and you can look it over next time. But we the purpose here is to tell the JUnit runner that where to look my configuration file, and in the configuration file I'm telling all the details of my database with user ID and password and some other related things. And then I have used AutoWare, okay, and then this is what I need to put, test. So whenever I put this as a test, it becomes added to my added to the use case, okay. So now this is the convention that we write test is validate user. So whenever I'm going to test a method, this is a convention that I put the small word test and then the method name throws DO exception, and here I have put the user set user ID and password, user password and username, and then I'm passing on this user over here, right? Because if you can see that this is validate user is taking a user parameter, okay? So this is what I'm passing on, but I'm passing on with the user ID and with the username and password as A, and then assert equals is valid user true, okay? So this is this method which is actually invoking the original implementation class. So original implementation class means this one, okay? It's invoking this one. Now this one again should return me either true or false. If you can look over here, it's returning a boolean, so it should return true or false. So now whenever I'm running it, you just right click on here, right click, and then run as, and then okay, so I need to run my server. Where is my server? Okay, and then let me run here. Okay, so I'm just waiting for the server to run, and when it runs properly, then we can do the testing. Okay, so the configuration file is over there, and then the next thing that we need to look at here is Hibernate util test that I have created, and over here you can see that this is the persistent unit J106, and then I have defined the entity manager factory, and this is something we talked about before, that how to create the entity manager, and we know that the entity manager can be created using the create entity manager factory, and once we get the instance of the entity manager factory, then we can create the entity manager. Okay, so this is what we need to make sure that we run a before class annotation. So that means when the class or when the test JUnit test is running, before that this should be in place. Okay, so this should be in place means like we get our entity manager instance automatically, and then when the test is done, we write another one is the after class annotation, and within that what we are doing is once everything is done, we are just closing the connection entity manager. Okay, so first we need to create the configuration, and then we need to create the Hibernate util or whatever name you give. We need to make sure that the entity manager is up and running, and then let's again move on to user do impl test, and then let me run it over here, run as, and you can see like the JUnit test is over here. So let's run JUnit test, and then you can see that it's running, and let's go over here, and you can see that green means that the test passed. Okay, so if I am going to put like, let's say B, okay, and then let's run as unit test, and it should be false, right? Like it should fail because there is no user named username B with password A. So if we go over here, and we can see that this is failed, okay, because the expected was false, but I mean, sorry, the expected was true, but we got actually false over here. All right, so let me change it back. So now let's move on to another one, another test, and let's look at the club DAO IMPL. So in this club DAO IMPL, you can see like there are a few tests, and I am going to uncomment this. And you can see like I have a test add club where I'm adding a club, and then there is test find all clubs. Okay, and I'm expecting the number of clubs to be 4, and then test get club by name, and I'm putting here science club, and I'm trying to figure out like if there is a science club there or not, and then test get club. Okay, and which is I'm setting the club name, and I'm expecting like it should not be null. Okay, so there are 4 tests, and let's go to the club over here, and if we go to the club, let's run it, select rows, and we already have 4, right? We already have 4 clubs. So if we are going to write this test case, run this test case, you can see that over here I'm adding a new club. Okay, and let me just change it, test club. Okay, and whenever this is added, so right now we have 4 clubs. So if this one succeeds, then we are going to have how many? 5. Okay, so this one is extracting all the clubs, and in that case the club size should be 5. So if I'm going to run it, let me run as JUnitTest, and let's wait. Okay, so it finished, and if we go over here, and you can see that there are 4 tests were run, all succeeded and none failure. So now let me put it back as it was before, and save it, and I'm going to delete it over here. So let me run again, and you can see that this test club is added. Okay, and that's why the test case actually passed. Okay, now if you look at the club test case over here again, run with Spring JUnit for class runner, and I'm telling where the context configuration is, and then I'm using the test annotation to mention that this is a test case, and all of these methods I'm, let's say, like add club, and if I go over here by ID and add club, so this is the method that I'm testing. So let's go to add club, and you can see that this is the add club that is defined in the interface, and within the implementation class you can see like this is the add club. Okay, so this is the add club, and is just doing what is just invoking the persist method to add the club. So that's all about the unit testing, and this is very important because this gives us the ability to test whatever we wrote in the in our implementation classes. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.